See and hear us now. Hello. Oh jeez, like just saying that, it's been a few weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, the past week has been an interesting few weeks. It's been a long 2021.
Yep.
In 1 week.
Yep. Sure, it sure has. Like, take the hat off to the week. Has it? In fact, I'm saying this. Has it? Like, when this dropped originally, like I've got the stuff up, but I don't know the exact date. Like, has it only been a week?
I think it was. God.
Let me get the master thread up. But while I get the master thread up, rather, yeah. Hello, Tommy. Welcome to the Twitch channel. In this capacity, at least, you're on the Twitch channel in Rise of the Runelords on Monday. Normally, at this time, in this place, same time, same channel. I appreciate you coming on.
Of course. And
I'm glad that, despite everything, we can actually have a conversation about this, and also that, like I said, I can introduce people both in chat and people watching the VOD later to both you and your YouTube channel, because they're both pretty dope.
I do it again.
So, like the other conversations I've been having with people, I had a really good conversation from Mike from Galarian In Depth a couple of days ago. That was actually pretty fun. What I'd like to do is not only talk to you about those things, but also we both, I think, maybe need to talk about what the hell is going on with Pathfinder at the moment. Because, well, we both like it as a game, and seems like some shitty stuff has been happening recently, right?
Mm-hmm. It has been a lot of stuff, and I definitely, like, all the content creators I know have been either in my inbox or, like, on their Twitter, just, like, collectively processing. So it's nice I think this is the first time since everything broke that was other than just, like, messages to my friends like, hey, this is all nuts. I need to take a break for a little bit, but we're not going to talk about it. And then now here we are together processing our feelings.
Right.
Health.
Yeah, I mean, quite apart from anything else, and I feel like this goes for both content creators and also definitely goes for the people who are actually directly involved in the stuff that has caused people to be talking about Paizo accountability and the current state of the company and the game. Particularly for those people, I feel like taking a moment to actually allow themselves to think, talk, and process this stuff is probably both a good thing to do and very healthy. So, hey, we're taking care of ourselves. That's nice. But yeah, so I suppose a little bit of background for those watching on the VOD later, as we massively date ourselves by talking about something that's specifically happening now. Basically, what started this whole furor was furor. I don't know how to pronounce that question. Trouble. Was the firing of this seemingly very summary firing of one Paizo employee, the company that makes Pathfinder 1E, 2E, Starfinder, various other things as well that we all like playing the game of, and then the resignation in sort of solidarity with of another customer service employee. Both of them, well, I've actually interacted with Diego before. I had some various problems with Paizo's website, sort of tech architecture with regards to some of my subscriptions and stuff, and he was certainly lovely to me, and it seems like lovely to basically everybody that he interacted with insofar as customer service can be. And it seems like, I think Sarah Marie, the person who was summarily fired was like 12 years experience or something like that, like been their customer service manager for basically ever. It seems like they've had quite a good reputation in the company, and that by itself wasn't great. But I feel like you as an American, more so than me in Britain, are a little bit more used to things like fire at will and shit like that. I won't lie. And I know this is letting my British privilege sort of show at this point, but those kinds of policies seem crazy over.
We get that a lot from our European friends. We really do.
I mean, I can see some of the advantages, but most of the advantages seem to be for employers, right? Rather than employees predominantly. Yeah. But that's not what we're talking about, because we're never going to... We too, or even the Paizo creators, are not going to be able to solve that problem. I don't think. I feel like that's a bit of a congressional issue. Yeah, I'm sure.
A little bit.
I'm sure they'll get right on that. Cry.
Indeed.
But no, that wasn't great. But that prompted, in turn, Jessica Price, a person who had worked previously at the company in various different roles and been reasonably senior and involved in like quite a few sort of important things to do with the beginnings of Pathfinder, and honestly done some really cool things on some of the other video games that she's worked on. For instance, I think she was at Riot for a period of time as well, which I was kind of like, when I was reading up on the background of this again, I was like, damn, you are so fucking unlucky. Like quite apart from anything else, like considering all of the stuff that came out with Kotaku about riots, just what the hell. What the hell, capitalism?
And there's the thesis statement.
Right, yeah.
That's happened. What the hell, capitalism?
In this tweet, I will summarize thusly. What the hell, capitalism? Could you not?
Indeed.
But yeah, so she came out with a whole bunch of shit, which wasn't good. Sort of combination of allegations towards several members of sort of Paizo's senior leadership, Jason Bowman, Eric Mona. I want to say, I think she talked about Vic and Lisa as well, the original founders of the company in a capacity, but it wasn't. It was a whole thread. You can go look for it, chat, and or people watching this later. We're not going to summarize the whole thing here because it's very, very complicated and long and deserves its own context. I don't want to take her words and misuse them. But the long and short of it was them doing that in turn led to several other sort of respected people in the community, Crystal Fraser and Lisa Guillet, I think I'm saying that right, amongst others, either posting statements of support for what Jessica was saying or talking about their own experiences, not particularly good experiences, with Paizo's sort of upper management and the company's practices in general, whilst also, and I feel like this is one of the good things that I think we should talk about as well, while also emphasizing that the vast majority of people at Paizo, I think, were good people and were, particularly lower down the chain, were committed to the things that we care about in Pathfinder. Stuff like the really cool things like the inclusion, even very early on, of characters like multiple trans characters, multiple LGBTQIA plus characters, and I think they have actually got the gamut. I was having a look at their record on that, and I believe they have an ace character. I couldn't find an intersex character. I don't know if they... But, you know, it's not about ticking boxes in that regard. It's just good that they're doing it, right? Because God knows we need more representation. And yeah, it seemed like they were emphasizing that there are a bunch of really good people who are mostly not very well paid, and on the lower rungs of the company that are still trying to do good stuff, but also talking about their bad experiences with both various named members of upper management, and also with just generally the company's practices in general, putting the needs of the consumer and the employer ahead of the employee. I think that'd be fair to say.
Yeah,
which, I mean, I don't know about you, made me feel unhappy, to say the least. Yeah. Obviously we're gonna go ahead and talk about the things that have further come out since then. But when you were reading that stuff, I presume you read these threads and stuff, like me, what with being glued to the Bird app and also directly involved in this as our own business. What were your initial feelings on that? What did you feel when you were reading that stuff?
It was for me, it was a very like delayed blast, I guess I'll say. I remember like I was up, I think I was playing Wrath, and I knew I didn't have anything to do in the morning, so it was kind of late, and I'd stayed up because I ran that same battle outside the tavern, and if you run it in turn-based, it's 2 hours.
Oh my god!
But you need to do it because it's fun. And then I get on Twitter, I scroll, I see the thing. My first thought was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's all a thing. I'm very tired. Let's go to bed about it. And then you wake up, and then all of these people have corroborated, and like now it's suddenly very like the war has come home. Like, to be clear, I don't work for Paizo in any capacity.
Neither do I.
But I've been doing this for like 4 years, I'm very attached to Paizo. It's specifically because of all of the things that they put in all of their books, especially lately. Like, as somebody who has been playing Pathfinder since like 2014, something I've watched the good stuff do this as we go. Like, I remember reading the old Mwangi Expanse book from like way back when, and be like, okay, cool, here's this, and then reading Lost Omen's Mwangi Expanse, which was printed this year, and feeling entirely different about it, because now they're taking all these steps to be much more forward thinking as a company. But then all of this stuff comes out, and all of these people are saying that this is bad, and wait, hold on, cognitive dissonance. Is this company that I'm not like more or less shilling books for on YouTube, like, are they, when I say, even when I'm not like out like, here's this book, what is like, do you want to know how to play this? Let's build this thing. Here's this weird 2-card combo that you can put together, and now suddenly you've beat everyone. Like, how are the words that I'm saying influencing the world to go out and play this over any other RPG? And then now it's tied back to more bullshit. Not great practices. Exactly. Yeah. And then that feeling, I feel like, kind of hit everyone. And then like people started getting together and talking about it. In fairness, Paizo specifically, like their PR manager is a saint and a wonderful person, and has
very good at it.
And been very good at listening at all of us, and like making sure everything is heard, and everyone got together to like talk about stuff. And then it felt both better and very like, oh my god, what's the word? What's a word for when everyone is all together just kind of coping and concerned about the future, and who knows what they're going to do? That.
I mean, communal is certainly one of the words that springs to mind, for sure, but I know what you mean. It's, I feel like there's probably a very long German word for it.
There's a very long German word for all the things.
But they've almost got the monopoly on very long words for very specific feelings in specific contexts. I feel like it's probably a German, but I know exactly what you mean. And yeah, no, I think I felt very similarly. I don't think I was playing Wrath of the Righteous at the time, but I think initially I sort of read the various allegations, the various threads and so forth, and I was like, I didn't immediately go, I hate this. I think I immediately went, oh, okay, fuck.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and then I processed it a bit, and then I thought, double fuck. But also, you're talking about the reaction of the community in terms of like other content creators to it, and how fast that reaction was as well. I found that heartening. Definitely. Maybe that's the word that we were looking for, heartening.
Yeah.
That process was heartening. I did think that for all that Mr. Aaron Shanks is very good at his job, it did feel like Paizo was doing damage control as much as they were genuinely trying to sort of, at least initially, genuinely trying to engage with people. And that is fair enough, they are a company, but at the same time, I think with regards to what you're talking about with shilling for sort of this RPG rather than other RPGs, certainly something I've always appreciated is the fact that when I talk about Pathfinder in comparison to, say, Wizards of the Coast, who do D&D and are much, much bigger and sort of owned by Hasbro, which has its own sort of connotations and so forth. One of the things I've always liked being able to do when I've been talking about Pathfinder, when I was supporting Pathfinder, is being like, so they do this better. Like, the content that they do, the inclusion that they have, the way that they treat difficult and sensitive and emotional political issues is better than a lot of other companies their size in this field, and I felt comfortable supporting them on that basis. So this sort of rocking that in sort of conjunction with previous sort of problems, like even today in the statement they released today, they mentioned a statement that they previously had to release about this, definitely shook me a little bit as well. So I think I agree with you on that one. I was kind of like, you guys were meant to be better. And I still think they are, but it is upsetting, right? It is.
Yeah. For sure. I think things will be better, and I see everyone is moving in, like you said, the coin has two distinct sides, the damage control side and the concerned and caring side of the company. Yeah. Originally, some of the first things were like, okay, that's very sure. And then once, I think a lot of that honestly had to do with the fact that this all happened over Gen Con. So nobody's in the office right now.
For sure.
And it's just all over the place, and now my cat has figured out that I'm in the office, so he's going to be screaming at me. That's okay. Dad, fix it.
But you're absolutely right. The Gen Con, it happening at Gen Con definitely wasn't good in terms of their response. I'm sure that hurt their response times, and also how much energy, we were talking about having a certain amount of energy to be able to even fucking process this, and we're not even directly involved. Like, we're just sort of interested observers with a stake, essentially, but we're not directly involved. I imagine seeing these kinds of things, I wouldn't want Mr. Shanks or indeed anybody else's job at Paizo at the moment when they were sort of dealing with this stuff, and also dealing with it on an emotional level must have been very difficult. At the same time, and again, I don't want to play devil's advocate, because again, I really like this company, I like the games that they put out. They did fire their customer service manager just before Gen Con, which, I mean, I'm not saying they did it to themselves, because it's more complicated than that, but I am a little bit. Like, my sympathy only stretches so far with regards to that. That said, Pathfinder Team Gaming, I think we both agree, Tommy, that they do it better than bigger companies. I think they still do it better than bigger companies, right? Like, again, I mentioned Wizards of the Coast. I run D&D, but I have much more. I don't sort of go to bat for D&D in the same way that I do for Pathfinder. Would that be fair to say with you as well?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't run any D&D, but I have toyed with it. I've come from the point when I started, I was definitely like, Pathfinder is the best system. All other system is bad. I will fight about this. Bring it on. And then I realized it was just because I was like, there was a part of me that was mad that 5e was more popular than the system I was playing. And then we learned to be, I won't say learn to be a better person, I guess, but when you process things, you come a little more secure, I guess, then you realize, okay, this isn't this is a fun game in its own right. And turns out you can play two things. Wowie. But yeah,
but
going to bat versus going to bat for WotC, it's two entirely different animals, because one of them is much more a face that I know, and a face that I can look at and be like, hey, here's this person. This person wrote a trans character in this AP, or wrote this person who's very openly gay, and you have to go help their partner. This is a minor Wrath of the Righteous spoiler, but
it is a good
their
one.
Partner, who is, I don't know if they put it in. I haven't gone into
They have, yeah.
With the Shadow Demon and the Soziel's husband.
Oh, I don't know that. I haven't got there. but I hope so.
In the AP, Soziel is not in the party. He's an NPC that's basically exactly the same way, stapled to you. And he's married to someone who's dealing with shadow blood addiction, which is what happens when something shadow demons something turn you to the dark side.
Yeah.
And the boss of book 2 is that shadow demon.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And you have to over the course of it, it's are you going to help this person who's dealing with this thing that is stigmatized? Oh, by the way, also he's queer. It's this whole big giant thing, and I like that's part of the reason we go to bat for Paizo, and part of the reason why I make my content, because I've seen firsthand how important this is, both for myself and for like my friends, to have this inclusion and this place to like see things in a healthy and good light. I'm confident
characters that represent
are also
us.
Exactly. I'm confident that like all of the bad things that have happened and all of the like maybe you shouldn't have done that, like the truth will out, the light of day will hit the thing, everything will be fine. I want to believe.
Sure.
And so here we are with it. It's
why we're talking about it, because we know that at least part of it, like even in our own small little way, at least part of just even talking about it will encourage that process to happen, which is, good. It's good that we can be involved and that we can actually push that. And I agree. I think, like I said, about it being two different beasts. I run 5e. I don't mind D&D. It's fine. I enjoy the games that I run with people. We can run two things, Shadow Dragon, yep, and languishing Magnum Army. Yes, I think languishing might well have been one of the words that we were looking for. It did feel a bit like that, but in a more positive fashion when people started talking about it, I think. I like 5e in the sort of sense that I like the games that I have with people and the players and what we do with it, but like a lot of people who play D&D who are more connected to the kinds of communities that we were talking about having representation, I think it's more a vehicle for what we do rather than because we're like, yes, this system by itself and the people who make it are excellent, because I don't feel that about Wizards of the Coast or about D&D. Whereas with Pathfinder, I'm not saying I was like, I don't think I've ever been sort of fervently like waving the flag, as it were, for Pathfinder. But at the same time, I definitely did have the sensation that it was, and is still, better, precisely for the reasons that you're talking about. And also just because I think and this is why their response has been better, I think, they're a smaller company, and they're more willing to directly engage with people and actually maybe admit that they're wrong about some things and then change those things, particularly when pressured to do so. They're actually at the level of company where they're still willing to, talk rather than to be like, we can ignore you safely. But yeah, so that was how we felt when this shit happened. And more stuff has happened since then, to their credit, as well as what we were talking about with regards to Paizo creators talking. And I want to at this point acknowledge, I think it's Dice Will Roll, the creator of Dice Will Roll, really sort of pushing the rolling stone of the hashtag, the Paizo accountability hashtag. But it's not like it's just been them. But they definitely made some I saw they made some graphics for it in the creators and spurred a certain amount of conversation. I think you also spurred a certain amount of conversation, or certainly commented on it in the server. And I saw a lot of other people, and I was very, very heartened to see how a lot of people very quickly jumped on this stuff and were like, A, this isn't okay. B, we're going to need you to actually address this and talk about it, and see, here are some things that you can actually do. Yeah, Dice Will Roll also made a list of demands. Yeah, and that was good, right? I think you quote retweeted it at one point.
Yeah. I was, as soon as I realized, I think it was Dice Will Roll when they were retweeting like, hey, if you're in the Pathfinder what's the word, like the content creator Discord that they made for us, we're all getting together trying to fix this. And it felt really good. I want to say that like nobody, at least that I was aware of, I'm sure there's some fringe somebody somewhere that was like calling for someone's head on a platter, but nobody wants that. We love the thing. We just want to clean house a little bit.
Right.
And that feels really good, like here. And then you watch the huge outpouring of like everybody coming together about stuff, and the like dev teams who are reading this and then posting back in there, hey, thanks, this is what's getting us through the panels we now have to go through with this in the back of our head, which has to be the heaviest goddamn weight, right? Like,
yeah,
that is
you've made a thing you're not necessarily even directly connected to the thing that is happening with regards to the Twitter threads and the sort of allegations and so forth. You're not upper management. You've made a thing. You're a creative person. You're employed by this company. And then suddenly this, I felt so bad. Like, I know the Guns and Gears stream directly addressed it. And I thought that was very brave and also good of them to actually directly talk about it. But you're right. It must be the heaviest thing, and I did feel very simultaneously very bad for them that they were having to even deal with this crap in the middle of Gen Con when they're trying to promote things that are good, irrespective of the other stuff that's happened, like the books and the sort of content that they're making and so forth. Is the same kind of Pathfinder content that, like you say, has been getting better and better and better. It was funny you mentioned the difference between the two Expanse books, because that was one of the things that I was thinking about as well when I was thinking about like the difference between old Paizo and the much more recent current Paizo. That was very emblematic for me. Another thing that I was thinking about was because I was rereading Return of the Rune Lords. Because we were talking about potentially doing the big 3 Thassalon trilogy with the Rise of the Rune Lords group. So I was like, okay, I'm going to reread Shatterstar and Return of the Rune Lords, start prepping, because we're in book 6. And something that struck me was how different even topics like Sortian are, the Rune Lady of Lust, are, and sort of talking about her gender identity and who she is as a person in the old books. And in Return of the Rune Lords, where she's a completely different character, and it's just so much better. And that's why I felt bad, like you say, about the creatives, because it's kind of like this stuff isn't directly their responsibility. And further, something else that I was really happy to see with regards to this topic was, did you see what Mark Seifter was saying about the different parts of the company and the different people in the company who made the sausage, essentially?
I did. Yeah, I think that's really, really cool, because like you never know. It's for so long the face of Pathfinder 3 was like 5 people, and like I'll make a video about it and I'll be like, hey, thanks Paizo for this. Now I can much more accurately be like, hey, thanks these people for this.
Yeah, I really liked the editing in this book, and now I know who I can actually be like, yo, this is a shout out on the streams or the videos or whatever. Yo, this was really good. Thank you, X person. And just generally, I think I was just reading it. I was thinking, wow, why don't more companies do this? And I know why. We were talking about it before the stream. God damn it, capitalism! Could you not?
Indeed.
But it was good that he does it. He did it, and I think that's emblematic of the fact that, like you said, I don't think most people who are sort of tweeting Paizo accountability, who are talking about these demands, who are responding to these things, certainly I'm not, and I don't think you are either. We're not, like you say, we're not looking for heads on platters or anything like that, because we like the company. We actually want them to do well. We just don't want them to sacrifice the things that made them good in the process of doing well, or sacrifice their employees, right?
Right, and like we want the employees to live in the world that they are creating in the RPG space, right? Which then I guess floats back at being mad at capitalism.
Right,
incidentally, I didn't think over last week I would end up in so many Patreons as I am currently. There have been so many lists of like, hey, here's this person, they did this, here's a link to their, like, I think it is pronounced Ko-Fi. Coffee.
Honestly, I have no idea. I have one and I don't know.
Here's their Patreon. Here's it's and like I like that I know they exist. I like that is now a thing, because I can go and be like, hey, that shit, I like it. Here's a couple bucks a month. Let's all do that, because apparently you're not making enough at Paizo, which is, it makes sense. I hate to hear it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, like they discussed the economic reasons. Mark did, and I've seen a couple of other discussions about the economic reasons for how much money they make. And you're right, it does make sense. it's not good. And for all that it is nice that they have, it sounds like they have certain sort of I think, again, difference between British and American politics, what you might describe as liberal economic sort of measures, like a profit sharing plan on a basic level to do with bonuses and stuff like that. It's the kind of stuff that, from a European perspective, I won't lie, looks like sort of papering over the cracks rather than actually doing the big meat of directly involving workers and sort of actually giving them fairer pay. But again, that's straying into capitalism and the problems. But again, it feels like they do that better. And it is good to see, and it is heartening to be able to directly support creators. And honestly, that leads to another question I had for you that I've been thinking about myself, which is that so one of the options I've been considering going forwards, I was reading this, and I was hoping this statement that we just saw drop by their president, this update to his previous statement, Jeff Alvarez, is that how, yeah,
I think so.
I was hoping that would make me feel differently about this, but one of the options I've been considering certainly has been that I will continue to for the most part run my Pathfinder games, because the games that I have with people are mine and theirs and nothing to do with Paizo, and we're not going to be oppressing or sort of making anybody terrible, but I might stop directly supporting Paizo, the company, like buying stuff from them, until say they address things in a more substantial fashion that isn't just a mixed emotions statement, whilst still being able to support the people that are making the stuff that I am using directly through things like their Patreon links and Ko-Fi links and stuff. Also, the other thing I was sort of thinking about is whether or not I'd carry on streaming Pathfinder stuff, because I like doing that, but at the same time, because of capitalism, it feels like one of the few ways that we have to actually sort of make change in these kinds of companies is to not support them financially directly, as opposed to supporting the people that we care about in the companies that are doing good stuff. So I wondered how you felt about that. Like, I know you've been thinking about making what you're going to do with regards to making Pathfinder content on your YouTube channel, and how you feel about that and stuff. So
yeah, that's definitely been the, like, from almost the beginning was like, well, what am I going to do now? Can I still, what the heck? So that was like, I didn't put out any videos last week. They were all like edited and done. So when I ultimately get back to it, it's going to be a very easy week of just upload, go, upload, go, upload, go. And it's going to be great. I suppose traditionally, indeed, if you want the corporation to hear you, you attack their wallet, because that is the language they speak. I don't know what point I'm at with it now, but like with the new update that only just dropped like right as we started doing this, I've read it. It is many words.
I'll put a link in chat, actually. Let me just put a link in chat so everybody knows what we're talking about, because it is many words, and to be clear, chat, both of us only just read this. Like, we deliberately didn't go live until we had read it, but it only dropped like a little over 2 hours ago. And it is, I mean, yeah, it was, I mean, they were addressing the points directly, most of them. I see they didn't address the stuff to do with Bowman, but he did put a statement out separately about that, right? But they addressed a lot of the other stuff that Price... Oh no, your video's froze. Can you hear me? Okay, hold on just a second, guys. Just got a few technical difficulties. Hold on. Hold on just a second, guys. Checking the stream. Am I still live, guys? Can you still see me? And hear me? Okay, fantastic. All right, cool. As long as I'm still live. We'll hopefully get Tommy back in a second. Cool. Yeah, sorry. We're just having some video and audio issues there. Yeah, so can see and hear you. Fantastic. Okay. Well, we'll give him a moment, but yeah. So what I was saying was basically this statement has just dropped. We've only just read it ourselves. It does seem to be addressing directly some of the things that Price and others were talking about. I'm happy with some of the answers. I'm unhappy with some of the other answers, and I'm sort of about some of the other stuff. Hello.
I exist.
Hooray!
We were talking about capitalism, and the capitalism machine heard me, and they took my internet away.
I told you, my CIA handler Bob. He's been listening, and he was like, "No, this sounds like sedition. Better shut it down."
It's them damn socialists take their internet.
Oh no! Can you see me? Can you?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, everything's
cool,
running. My ping is much higher than 0 now.
Oh goody!
Why are you talking over me? What the hell?
Yeah, I know I wasn't. I'm so sorry.
Indeed.
Yeah, no, my ping's okay at the moment, but I was seeing flicker earlier. Goddamn internet. So I mean, this is a tangent, a very slight tangent, but is the internet where you are any better than the internet where I am? Like, did you?
Based on the way you post, I assume, but only just. I never have I ever had to go out and hunt for like better internet or like anything like that. I think it might be the apartment complex that I'm living in, and the way like currently the me and my roommates have our everything set up. I have a cable which runs from my computer out of the closet, which has been converted into office space, into the wall, into up there where the router is, and it's a whole Mousetrap, if anyone remembers that game from the 90s.
No, I know exactly what you mean. My the house I was sharing previously before I moved to this apartment was exactly the same. I was in a house with a bunch of computer science graduates of one way or another, and they had recabled the entire place, which was, I didn't understand any of it because they'd done it in a very confusing, convoluted fashion, but it worked. that was the main thing, and we got decent internet, whereas here, not so much. Here I had to, like, as you've seen, I had to, and I'm on 5G at the moment, so I when you went down, I was like, is it me? Has the 5G disappeared? Bill Gates promised me after the vaccine that everything would be okay, but no.
What's wrong with my connection? Come on, go connection.
Right, yeah, exactly. Where are my dino powers? But yeah.
But where were we? We were big things.
Statement.
I heard Bowman's name.
Yeah. So we were talking about Jeff. There's this new statement that's also dropped. But yes, it seems like to me, and part of the reason we're having this conversation is you might have different or the same feelings, and that's completely okay. But it seems like to me they've addressed things that were directly sort of angled at Paizo in that statement. Some of the stuff I'm happy about. Some of the stuff it seems like it's just kind of corporate canned language rather than like a direct sort of addressal. But it is a good step forwards in the sense that they're actually talking about it rather than not talking about it. They don't seem to have talked about some of the stuff that's sort of pointed at individuals. I know that, like you say, Jason Bowman and Eric Mona have both issued their own statements talking about like their specific things that were sort of alleged against them. How did you feel about those?
At first, I wasn't sure. I was processing, and I think that was one of the hardest things for me because, like, I have met both of those men before. I went to Gen Con the year the Pathfinder 2e playtest dropped, and Eric
really
Mona.
Cool.
Eric Moda came up to me and my partner at the time slapped 2 badges on the table.
Nice.
Welcome to Gen Con, he said. And that was like my first like victory is mine
Right.
moment.
Yeah. Like,
in terms of BDG. They said what they said. A lot of people in the space have like, hey, this is really cool. Read this. I know I'm really bad at names is what I know. But
Same.
I believe Crystal Fraser's partner was the one. It was a link that Owen Casey Stevens put on Twitter, followed it to her, and here's this big long thing that basically, how do I want to say it? It made reading Jason's statement feel better, just because there was somebody like backing it up who was in.
Oh, that's good.
Who wasn't like another dude. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
it's
I do.
Still...
I know exactly what you mean. You kind of need that kind of corroboration, I feel like, in those sorts of situations for it to... Because otherwise it's one person's word against another, and that leads you into the sort of like believing victims and just generally... You said another dude, and I don't want to... You don't want to generalize, right? But at the same time, you look at companies in other industries, you look at instances in other industries where it has been some white old dude at the top who has been accused of these things, and almost invariably something bad has happened. Not exactly what, but something bad has happened, and there seems to be a pattern there, which is distressing. But so that kind of, I haven't seen that corroboration, but that does make me feel better just knowing that it exists. But you were going to say still.
I feel like there still has to be more. Ultimately, I guess the whether or not the apologies or the statements or things like that, it's a combination of like people change. No, anything is a monolith. People are people, ergo people are fallible. And I'm very sure that everyone is feeling lots of bad right now because that's where we all landed at that point. But it's also like the people involved, how they interpret the things, I think ultimately determines the final where that rolling dice lands. Ultimately, it's a much better place than it was a week ago. Does it land natural 20 or does it land 18? You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Right. No, I do know exactly what you mean. It's and again, that's kind of why I wanted to have this conversation, why I'm glad that other creators have sort of been pushing for them to talk about this, because I feel like the chance of them doing right by the people who deserve to be done right by increases if people sort of talk about it and push them to actually directly address stuff rather than maybe the instinct of any company when they're busy with Gen Con and so forth, which is to sort of brush it under the carpet and hope that the bad stuff goes away. I also think that it's interesting. You're talking about corroboration. I think they mentioned this in. I think Bowman mentioned this possibly about proving a negative and so forth. It is a difficult position that they have been placed in comparison to the other examples that you've seen in the industries, in the sense that there isn't really. You're talking about apologies. There isn't really a direct person that we can be like, okay, so if this person accepts their apology and accepts that everything, like they have made amends, then we can move on. Whereas in this one, it's very nebulous, isn't it? Like who could we look to as a person that we were kind of like, all right, so if they're cool with it, then we're probably cool with it as well because they're the person that's directly been affected by this. I don't see like Price, for instance. I don't see almost anything Paizo does being good enough, essentially, in that sort of situation. Not necessarily wrongly, but she clearly has deep-seated emotional issues with the company for apparently good reason, but I don't see them being able to do anything to sort of satisfy that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a very, like, you've put the white shoe in mud, you can clean it, but, like, that stain is always going to be there. And I think that's what, like, we have to hold on to moving forward is the, like, this thing happened, this was bad, here's why it was bad, here's what we are doing to make sure this doesn't happen moving forward and fix ourselves. Because, like, again, everybody's human. People are going to make mistakes.
Right. And the point of movements in general, the point of movements like this with regards to making changes, that change actually can happen. And that there are steps that companies and individuals can take to make things better. Some of them are hard steps, right? Like, but they there is stuff that they can do. And I think actually, it's interesting you say that. Just saying that has sort of condensed my thoughts a little bit on what I want them to do, right? Because you were saying about there being steps that they can do to avoid this happening again and making sure that this doesn't happen again. Do you feel like the statement that they've put out is that, or do you think they still have more that they have to do?
I think it's definitely a good start in the right direction. I still I read very slowly and I process even slower. So even like this is out, oh God, we're about to talk about this. Right. Let's read. It's like I'll feel differently towards better not feeling bad about it now when I get more time to stop and read and process. And here's the things we're doing. I think a part of it also has to be like a time thing, both in the nature of like, okay, how is this going to affect workplace things moving forward here?
What are you
and
actually
also
doing, sort of.
And also, like, I think as a community, a lot of us just need that time to like recover from it, because this is the company that I tell people is really good, and like, oh, here's my friend, they're struggling with some stuff. Let me show you this Pathfinder deity because they embody it, and I think that's super cool. And here's this. And then, like, all this week, at least for me, before, like, I don't currently record or upload any of my games because, like, I have a lot of them, and it doesn't.
We were talking about this,
my clients don't all have to go out and buy very nice microphones to hang on the channel. But if you want to put up content, like, if I want it to get views, it has to be good. So I either have to spend a bunch of time editing it for a limited return, or like, hey, y'all, here's 6 Blue Yeti microphones. We'll make it work.
Right.
But
I won't lie, I've genuinely thought about doing that. I've been like, okay, I'm just going to find out what the best budget microphone is and literally send it to people. But yeah, no, sorry.
But a lot of it is, like, before games would start, because I GM for a lot of people across a lot of different walks of life, a lot of different, like, a slice of the world. And Pathfinder obviously attracts, like, a lot of like people like me, and so it's, hey, so this happened, how are we feeling about it? Do you want to talk about this? And a lot of my games have been like 20 minutes beforehand of just like everybody venting the
processing,
like the formally, I'm doing this is how I feel, I'm confident things are going to be fine, I'm still comfortable running for you, are you still comfortable playing this game? And the response has been like, I'll either get like a yes, definitely, because I'm just here to play the game once a week and I have no idea what's going on.
Right.
The second one was just like, wait, what happened?
Right.
Or a lot. Yeah. I think the worst I have heard so far amongst like the Pathfinder community is just I'm not comfortable buying anything at the moment until things like filter out, but I still want to play and hang out and things. So
I mean, like I was saying, that's roughly where I am at the moment. Although I agree, I still need to reread that statement and sort of process it a bit more. I want to see what not only the people who are alleging things in the first place, if they have a response. They don't owe us any responses, but if they have any responses, then I would be very interested to see how they respond to it. And also, like, some of the other people who, like we've been talking about, Mark Seifter and various other good people like Thurston and Mark Morland, and people like that that have previously sort of had weight on the issue and spoken about it in a sort of meaningful fashion that hasn't been terrible. I'm interested to see how they respond to this and what they think of it before I sort of pass any judgment myself with regards to what I want to do. But yeah, no, with regards to the processing and stuff, it's just upsetting that we've been, and it's not all their fault, but it is upsetting to be put into that position in the first place, right?
Because it's like, again, I do not work for Paizo, but I've been making videos about Paizo's product for several years, and it is my primary income source to do so. And it's like, it definitely felt like, you see all the time, like, you'll be consuming media however you do. Blizzard did the bad thing. Company on strike. And like, that sucks and it's bad and we need to change things, but like, I guess I felt like Paizo was isolated from that,
right? That they were doing it better,
right? And then come to find out, perhaps not. And so it was just a very big blow to the gut. But I think in time, I'm sure I will come around. I'm confident all the things I want to see are going to be things that happen. I'm just waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Right. They do seem to be happening slowly. Don't get me wrong, I will absolutely 100% give them that, and I'm right there with you with regards to not only the length of time running Pathfinder, like the first proper campaign of first proper like long-term role-playing game I ran was Pathfinder 1e, like when it came out. Like I got the core rulebook when it came out. I've been running it ever since. I've been running it as my income, like half of my games are Pathfinder games at the moment, either 1e or a 2e, and I've been running that as my income for like over 2 years now. And yeah, like you, it was a bit of a blow because we were discussing this earlier and beforehand as well. When you compared Paizo to Pathfinder, and when you still compare Paizo to Wizards of the Coast or to some other role-playing game companies, looking at, for instance, the fucked up mess that the most recent iteration of White Wolf did before Paradox had to bring them back in house because they had a bunch of homophobia in one of their vampire books.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was a whole mess. It got to the point where they literally shut the company down, and Paradox literally took it back in house because they were like, nope. Nope.
Damn.
Yeah, it was a big thing. But when you look at stuff like that, and you look at Paizo, like they are actually addressing stuff. They are slowly, partially because of Gen Con but slowly sort of doing things about it. So I am hopeful, like you, I think, that they will make steps to change what they think they can. So that is good. But I think that, like I say, I think it's important that we are having this conversation, that people are processing it, but also that people like us talk about this, because it will keep it on their agenda to do more about it, I hope. Because that way maybe we can get to a point where we both want to recommend Pathfinder again to people. That'd be nice, right? We were joking about when role-playing games were fun.
Can we get back to that? Can we get back to just having fun and doing the thing and stuff like that?
Can we get back to talking about the cool stuff in Secrets of Magic and the cool stuff in like the Mwangi Expanse books and honestly some of the dope stuff. Like for all that we have interesting opinions about like the adventure paths, the source books and setting books for 2e have been really good, and 2e the system is good, and I want to talk about that, right? Rather than this.
And then all of this big, heavy stuff that now we have to... That day will come. I'm sure it will. It's just... It feels less bleak today than it did not even a week. I think it was last Wednesday.
Right. We were trying to date it. What even is time? It's March 2020, right?
God. Ooh. Right. A little bit.
But yeah, I think it will. And like I say, I am hopeful not only to be able to directly support creators and know more about the creators. It may end up being that we look back at this and go, this was bad, but it may end up being a net positive for the company. Yeah, in the sense that, sure. Right, in the way, not only that it forces them to review their own internal procedures, not only does it force them to take steps that maybe they wouldn't have done if this hadn't happened in the first place, but also, like you say, even it's given us more knowledge about how the sausage is being made and who is making it, which in turn will hopefully allow the company to be better and make even better things.
The best sausage.
Speaking as a vegan, the vegan sausage. The meatless way. Now we're talking about something else.
Stop grinding up their people.
Oh God, they're already dead.
God, I agree though. Like I think it was Eli at Deadly D8. He's a wonderful dude. I've gamed him in the past. He makes really good content.
Yeah,
but he said, like, paraphrasing him, he said something along the lines of like, looking back, I hope we turn this into like that time Paizo was the company that did better than anybody else, because like things are bad things gonna happen. Hopefully in 5 years we don't remember this. Hopefully in 5 years we remember.
Heck, I hope we don't remember
that time. Right? Remember Paizo accountability? Remember when they cleaned their house up and they practiced what their dev teams have been preaching at us for so goddamn long. Like,
right. And I think that is actually part of it. Now that you mention it, that was part of my emotions when I actually started processing this initially. Irritation, a little bit of irritation, not much, but a little bit of it, where it's kind of like, you guys have been sort of putting this stuff in your games. A lot of you clearly believe this stuff, and yet there's still this stuff coming out about you and the company and about your upper management. Like you say, there's telling other people good things, and then there's doing the good stuff yourself and carrying on consistently doing the good stuff yourself, so that you have the fucking moral authority to be able to actually say that stuff to other people. So it doesn't feel like when I talk to people about Pathfinder's representation, I don't then get immediately like, people who, you know the type, the people who are like D&D 5e forever. They don't immediately come back to me about this crap, rather than not being able to argue because the stuff that Paizo is doing is better, right?
Exactly. This puts a big giant stain, and now 2 weeks from now we'll be talking about how Wizards of the Coast is gonna buy Paizo. I don't know if that ever got back to you at all.
No, I hadn't heard this one.
There was I don't remember the name of the YouTuber. He put out a video speculating that WotC was going to buy Paizo for a bunch of real dumb reasons.
No, I do remember it. It was dumb. Yeah. I was like, wow, I haven't seen clickbait this whole like large since fucking 2010. And
right.
Jeez.
They want to buy Paizo because of this one weird trick.
Oh my god. Oh, yeah.
God.
Other role-playing companies hate it.
Yes, they do, because it's clickbait as well.
Yeah, right.
But, I agree that having not having other people come back and be like, we don't want to play Pathfinder anymore, here's why. I would get that, and that's a valid response if that is how you were feeling. But I would rather that not happen, and it looks like we are trying to not have that happen. So having other people turn towards our community, and then that kind of goes against everything I like about Pathfinder and the general tenets of being a human being. Right. Don't be crappy to everybody.
Yeah. Just and again, that was some of the stuff, and I was glad to see that this statement addressed the fucking cleaning services allegation about them having shit in their ducks and just not doing anything about it. It was completely believable because it's exactly the kind of stuff that crap corporations do. They just sort of mismanage stuff and don't care, and then when you sort of actually talk to them about it, they get all defensive because it's something they haven't done anything about. But at the same time, I'm glad that they did actually address it and stuff, because it was kind of this is a simple thing. Do the simple things. Do the simple things right. And again, sometimes when you ask this of any company, right, you feel like you're asking, the culture that we have almost makes us feel like we're asking too much, because so many companies don't do it. But we're not, right? We're not asking too much.
I think that's literally, and we again cycled back to capitalism. My internet will fail in 5.
No! Quick!
But
capitalism is great. Wall Street, yep, I'm a big fan.
Hooray!
Stocks.
Jesus. But I feel you. This is, it feels like we're asking so goddamn much, but we're not. We're asking for the minimum. We're asking
basic
for
humanity.
Exactly. But a friend of mine who I was talking about this with, who also is my friend, who's when I run into things when I'm GMing or in the gaming world where I personally second guess what I'm writing or what somebody wrote and be is this ethical? What is this? And then we'll have a very long conversation about it. He always tells me, I'm gonna botch the quote, but it's the arc of justice is long, but it errs towards...
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know the one. And I think I like to think that that's true. It helps to think that that's true, right? It's the difference between optimism and pessimism in that sort of situation. And I want to be optimistic about it. So I hope Paizo continues to give me reasons to be optimistic about it. Because again, we like that game.
We do.
Right. There's some cool stuff about it. Magnum, any large group of people has some number of asshats. It's what the management does to deal with the asshattery that's the measure of a good company.
Pretty much, yeah. That's a very good way to put it.
Right, yeah. That's the quote. Put it on the title. It might be a bit long. AJ, Aether, how will being decent affect profits? Yeah, I feel like that's meant to be sarcastic. But the worst part is, again, I feel like for Paizo, being decent has affected their profits positively, right? Like, the two things Paizo did in comparison to D&D were, one, they didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater with D&D 3.5. They wanted people to be able to sort of actually transition to playing their game without having to throw away all of their 3.5 supplements. Now, you can question whether or not they did that well or not. It's still a bit of a ball ache to translate stuff from 3.5 to Pathfinder, probably deliberately because they want them to play their own game. But the other thing they did better was being decent. Being just a bit better than the other sort of similarly sized role-playing game companies. And I hope that they carry on doing that. Like, one of the things Price talked about in their allegations that really made me a bit upset was the suggestion that one of their marketing people was saying that maybe we don't want to be positioned as the company anymore that wants to be decent and wants to sort of have inclusion and representation. And the idea of them going down that path instead in response to these allegations is upsetting, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure, because like that's their whole brand, and I feel like that's like, will this affect profits? Yes, it will, because there are people who are buying it on that premise,
right?
And it's like, I remember when, what was this, last 2 summers ago, I believe, when the thing that Wizards put out about how they were going to redo their orcs to make them better, which is an important conversation to have. I feel like Pathfinder had landed there, and had been living in that space. Granted, again, the arc continues to get progressively better and better the more 2e stuff comes out.
Very much so.
But it's like, this is so goddamn important, and this is why people are buying the books, and buying the books at a premium, and going to game shops and being like, hey, come play this game with me. Here's why it's important to me. Like, that's literally, it might not be the most lucrativest of all business models compared to other things.
Apparently it's very lean,
but you're also a TTRPG that's not D&D.
Yeah.
And so like lean was kind of it sounds so horrible to say it this way, but like people are doing the thing because they love to do the thing.
Yeah.
And the money is, we require it to pay the rent and eat food and survive.
Right.
But ultimately we're doing it because we love the thing.
Because it's a vocation. Yeah, absolutely.
Precisely.
Absolutely. And because, like you say, it's so goddamn important. I absolutely agree on the orcs, by the way, in comparison. And again, this is what I'm saying about the difference between defending the two different countries, lol, two different nations, no, two different companies. Wizards completely botched it and were basically forced to do anything about it in the first place. And even now, they still haven't really done very much. Like, they put some stuff out about lineages in Tasha's because they were forced to, basically. I think if there hadn't been such an uproar about it in sort of progressive circles and actual creators sort of talking about it and almost forcing them to do anything about it at all, I suspect if they'd done anything about it, they would have waited until a new edition, right? They wouldn't have even had that conversation. Whereas you're right, Paizo, with regards to orcs and indeed ancestries as well, whilst there's, like you say, the arc is still trending and there are still problems with it with regards to bioessentialism and big topics again. But with stuff like bioessentialism and stuff like ability score modifiers and penalties and so forth, that they can do better at. They've been substantially better in terms of like how they've written orc culture and to do with lineages and races and so forth in general for a while, right? Like pretty much, definitely since the beginning of 2e, but pretty much since like we started getting books like the Advanced Race Guide in 1e. Honestly, some of the conversations in that book are still worth sort of looking back at, because it's clearly a group of people who actually care about these issues, writing about an issue that they care about and that they have thought about, and starting to make that journey in terms of design to a place where the game is better, and that's great. And I just want that back.
For sure. The irony of ironies. The irony and ironies during all this, I was running Rise of the Runelord as well, that we got the Stone Giants part, and the group was like, all agreed, like, this is too much combat. We would like something. So I am GMing War for the Crown now amidst all of this.
Yeah, I remember you saying. Yeah.
Like, this is a good time to do the Smash the Patriarchy one. Why, yes.
Right, yeah. Although, I'm sure this is something you'll find when you run War for the Crown. That is one of the most interesting conceits about that AP, because it is very much Smash the Patriarchy, but it's very much not Smash the system. You're fighting for a monarch in that one, and it is very much two sort of like the opposing faction is definitely more conservative and bigoted, but they're arguably more radical in terms of like where they want. They're just also massive imperialists and expansionists and all that horrible stuff. But it's interesting that the even in the Smash the Patriarchy AP, you're still fighting to preserve this moderate monarchy because it's the thing that will prevent upheaval. Mm-hmm. I was definitely kind of like, okay, so enlightened centrism. Okay, with a dashing of social progressivism in there, but it is a good AP. I wish you all the best with it. Absolutely, it's a fun one. And we were talking about middle and lower designers having bigger thoughts than maybe upper management about it, and putting stuff into their games where they're having that sort of journey. War for the Crown is a good example, because the actual characters of Martella Lothide, the spy master that the players are with all the time, and Eutropia herself, in terms of like her political thinking, are clearly someone. I think Crystal Fraser's involved in the design of that one, right? She wrote some of the characters. It's very easy to see what parts are written by them, because they're really good.
Yeah, that they are.
Go ahead.
And it's a very big like allegory, I suppose, for what is happening now. The like, things are bad. We don't want to dismantle the Empire. Right. We just want to put the Empire to do better and be better and function this way, because this way works better for the halflings as well. Essentially, to make a bad War for the Crown joke.
We've it's very unfortunate. We're talking about how bad it is for the halflings in Taldor. That is something that we realized was terrible in War for the Crown, because on the one hand, you're right, halflings in Taldor are treated even worse than some of the humans are in terms of like second-class citizenry and so forth. But I don't know if you've noticed this yet. There are so many evil murderer halflings.
There are.
Like, I can't think of a good aligned halfling in the whole AP, but there are a bunch of murderers.
They're all over the city, and you see them, but you're not aware of them, because the AP doesn't come out with a handout of this person who's not the like evil jester, or I'm a session in. So like, we spent all of the last session like, here's all the things you want to do. Let's take 2 hours to roleplay the fact that there are 2 vigilantes in the party.
Oh my god!
One of whom's last name is Lothide, so I'm going to have a lot of fun with that.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah.
I keep having to be like, no, we can't. Be careful what you read about your family.
Right.
A lot of War for the Crown spoilers in your family.
Let me just give you like a truncated version.
Redact.
Right, exactly. Remove the entirety of one of the adventures. Like, just push that over there. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Well, like I say, it's a very interesting AP, but I would encourage you, I know we've talked about how to run this AP previously. Thoroughly encourage you, add some good aligned halfling protagonists, sort of NPC protagonists, just because, yeah, there are a bunch of really evil ones and not much else.
Makes sense.
But how did we get onto War for the Crown? Yeah, you're right. It is a good metaphor. You're right. It's a very good metaphor for the sort of the state of things at the moment, in the sense that War for the Crown, to let chat know, has like this setup where it's got the Taldan Empire, which is one of the oldest empires that still exists in Galarian, Paizo's world, and there is a change of government essentially happening, which turns into a violent coup d'etat. So let's hope we avoid that bit. But it has previously, shall we say, set in their ways, and not entirely conscious, perhaps, of all of the things that they could be doing, the equivalent of upper management in the Empire, the Emperor and sort of some of his senior ministers and Grand Strategoses and so forth, who are being... who are hopefully, over the course of the AP, with the PC's help, being supplanted by a person who doesn't want to, who's part of the monarchy as well, who doesn't want to tumble the Empire at all, because they think that on the face of things, much like we think on the face of things, Paizo sort of existing is much, much better than it not existing, and doing the things that it does is much, much better than it not doing the things that it does, but at the same time, recognizing that the current edifice as it is needs change, needs accountability, the kind of thing that we're talking about with the hashtag, and needs people to actively sort of not only make that change, but also have direct and frank conversations with the people who are in charge in the Empire over the course of the AP and in Paizo over the course of hopefully the next couple of weeks, to convince them that they do need to do something. They need to set out what they're doing exactly and then show what they're doing so that everybody knows that they are actually committed to making things better rather than either running in place, which is essentially what Taldor is doing and slowly sinking because of it, or getting worse, which is what I feel like, say, Wizards of the Coast does on occasion, and certainly other role-playing game companies that have done worse than Paizo have done, right?
Yeah, White Wolf, apparently. That one was new to me.
Yeah, no, seriously, it was a shame, because the actual core book for Vampire, for the most recent version of Vampires, is really good. It was both in terms of like representation and sort of just generally in terms of maybe what's the word, updating the concept of vampires in the World of Darkness to more modern understandings of things to do with like predatory behavior and I don't know, old World of Darkness. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, and I don't want to defend old World of Darkness too much. But because old World of Darkness, precisely because these conversations hadn't been had in our wider culture at this point, has, you know, old world views about vampires and about what they do. They're cool, they sparkle, they're definitely not predators. Or like we're gonna ignore all of the unfortunate connotations that are involved up in the vampire concept, whereas V5 confronted it head on. But then they released this source book about Chechnya, and about like the setting in Chechnya, and it had a bunch of paragraphs in it that were just massively homophobic, basically. Had like gay people in concentration camps. Like, it was that bad.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Like I say, it forced Paradox to basically take them in-house. Like they put a statement out about it. They folded the company. And I don't think what Paizo has going is anywhere near that bad. Which is good. No, God. Which is good, right? I'm really glad.
That's been a big theme in all my talks with people. Like, the conclusion we've landed on, I was like, this is bad. It is not this company that did this, which is objectively way worse.
Right. But it's still bad. So we want them to do something about it. But at the same time, I guess, if I could say something directly to Paizo's sort of employees, I feel like we see you trying. Right? We do. We see you trying, and that's great, and we see you sort of making statements and putting stuff out and actually actively trying to be better, and keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going, because we do want you to do well, and we want your game to do well, and we want to be able to support your game, so that you can keep on putting out stuff that is good, better. Okay, so I feel like we could probably talk about this forever.
Yeah.
Partially because it's bound up into like political issues, and partially because it's just, I think, something that we both care about, which is great. But yeah, we could talk about this forever. And one of the other things I wanted to do on the stream today, as I said at the beginning, was talk about you, sir. So, and your channel. So, even if you're still thinking about what you want to do ahead of time, I suppose I have a few questions, just to give a bit of bit of background, I suppose. What first got you into role-playing games? Like, what made you want to sort of devote a good chunk of your life, it sounds like, to producing YouTube content about them and running games?
What first got me into, I think, was I currently live in Los Angeles County, but I didn't always live here. I grew up in a very small town in mid-Missouri. Like, my graduating class was 36 children. We were a big class. And so, like, obviously, I didn't fit in super well, because I didn't know as much about myself, but I knew I was different, didn't know why I was different, and we weren't really talking about that in, like, 2006. So what do we do about it? We get a computer, and we play video games and such. And one of my first experiences, as you and I have had this conversation on, because it turns out we like the same video games, was I don't know if you played this one, this one's ever come up, but there was in like 2001 I think it's really old now. Troika Games put it out, a really good Temple of Elemental
Evil. Yes, I have played that.
It is the best CRP. If you want to play something that feels like the tabletop, it's so good.
It has a grid.
It has a grid. All of the actions are there. It will mercilessly murder you with giant frogs with no.
Oh, heck yes! Like it was.
God, they were rude.
Yeah, it's unforgiving. But I have played this game. I think I played it way later than you though. I got it from Good Old Games, and I got like the patch for some of the really really broken buggy shit about it. But no. Sorry, go.
Yeah, Circle of Fate was great because they added all this extra content to it, and they fixed all of the bad. But it was like that Icewind Dale, Neverwinter Nights, the old Baldur's Gate, so on and so forth. You get exposed to this world of different things, and where like people can go out and do things to fix the world in a meaningful way, but also put all of these pieces together, and the King of Shadows can't hurt your warlock, so just give him the sword because it's basically cheating, but haha. And then you find this thing that you're really good at, and I never got a chance to play until like 19 when I moved to a slightly larger town, and somebody was like, hey, we're gonna play D&D. I have this thing, and they could commit to a one-shot. The person wouldn't GM for more than that. And so what do? I'm like, no, okay, I want this in my life. We're running it. So I run to the Walmart. I buy a big thing of poster board, Sharpies, a ruler, and we just draw. I had no concept of what hit dice were. Sure. My first group was 9 people.
Oh, jeez.
And just kind of from there, the hook was set. And there were a lot of like, sometimes I'm playing, sometimes we're not, sometimes we're doing this, sometimes we're not doing this. And then eventually a friend of mine, we were playing a lot of competitive Magic at the time. Cool. And he invited me to this game store in another small town in Missouri. And they had a Pathfinder group in the back running, it's a really good level 1 module. I cannot think of the name of it. I think it's Master of the Fallen Fortress.
Oh, yeah.
And I just kind of like, I'm going to go do that. Rolls up a barbarian. Nice. And then like, have a lot of fun, get the hook set back in. Fast forward, like, oh god, like 2 years of a solid group. I'm working in a warehouse driving a forklift, essentially. But I'm making all right money.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I would really like more D&D in my life. Aren't there people out there who do it? We do, who pay me money, I'll GM for you. Mm-hmm. I really like some of the content these people are making. Let's go to they make more on Patreon than I do doing this job I hate. Fuck this. And
yep. Right there with you on that one. Yep.
That was the catalyst. We decided, okay, cool. I'm going to make Pathfinder videos now. And it started out very slow. I didn't know what I was doing, and I had the microphone from a really crappy webcam and HitFilm, which I still use to this day, and we just upload as much as we can. My break, I suppose, as it was literally on my birthday when Chewy was announced, and I was positioned at a point in that space where I was like, they put out a blog, I'm going to cover it. I'm very excited about this, and that's when the arc just did this, and then the Patreon begins to fill up, and present day, years down the road, I put videos out on YouTube about mostly 2E these days, trying to keep up with the backlog, and because, again, the new stuff is great, and it's very important to the TTRPG zeitgeist, but also, like, 1E, I still play 1E. I probably will never stop. Just kind of all the things Paizo puts out that I really like. I'm like, here's how you can build this. Here's the history of this. Here's how magic works as a concept in
covering stuff.
Lore.
That was really interesting in Secrets of Magic, that particular essay. That was a really good... I like the in-world essays that they do when they do that stuff, and that was one of the more interesting ones. And I have to say, just so chat knows as well, Tommy's talking about sort of covering the backlog, and boy, they put out a whole bunch of stuff, so it's I very much admire how sort of in-depth you go with it. But no, Tommy puts out some great videos. Highly recommend it. Not only are his thumbnails very, very good from a YouTube content creation perspective, but also the videos are good as well. So let me grab a link to your channel that I'm gonna put into the Discord chat. Because highly recommend giving this person a subscribe, everybody. Go do it now.
Go now, do the thing, go
quickly. No, I'm kidding, but yeah, they do good videos. So there we go. Just drop that in. But yeah, no, I can see like you would. I see a lot of parallels to what I do, but you got to the point where 2E was happening, and you got in on ground zero then, essentially, and really that's what started to spur you. Nice. Why YouTube specifically? Like, do you prefer YouTube in comparison to like other platforms, or?
At the time, it was kind of the only, like, Twitch existed, but I couldn't do what I was doing on Twitch. I need to figure out how the hell TikTok works.
Same.
That's probably an easier way to make money, because all the videos are 30-second formats, and I don't have to get very in-depth about things, but it was there. It was a great way to, like, get my opinions, and, like, originally, the very first very old videos that I made were like, here is the entry for, this is before I knew Archives of Deathus was a thing,
right?
But like, in the back of Bestiary 5 there is a race called an Astamoy, and they are definitely not Miraluka of Star Wars, and here's how they function, and here's how you'd play it, and all of this. And it was very like, here's this thing, nobody knows what this is, let's talk about it, here's why this is so damn cool. And then, like, from there it just continues to snowball, and the, like, I don't know where the original request before, like, everything took off, where, like, I was the only person kind of in the space making the videos, and it'd be like, hey, do this species next, do this, do that, talk about this. And then, like, there was a notepad file that unfortunately got lost in a hard drive crash. So now it's like, I have a big Google thing of, like, when patrons request, like, make a video where in 1E you are constantly a tiny creature without any kind of, like, overt magical shenanigans. So
yeah,
it's like how to get permanent reduced person plus ooze more freaking, I don't know, I haven't quite figured it out.
Yeah, it's tricky. No, I've seen that on the server. You take requests from people and just try to build it in like either 2E or 1E, and I think that's really, like, that was a really good concept. I can see why people like it, and it seems like like a good thing to have, like, as a unique thing that you do. Because I know other people do build tips and tricks and stuff, because of course they do, but I don't know of another YouTuber that does that specific focus. So that seems really cool.
And it's been a really fun focus, especially, like, it's a double-edged sword that cuts both ways in a good way, I guess, because like, on the one hand, first edition Pathfinder is difficult. It takes more, the curve is wider. I think it was like Kotaku or somebody. I put it in the shit posting of my Discord. Like, surprising no one, Wrath of the Righteous is difficult. How do character work? Right, because when you're coming in, I
saw that article. Yeah, right.
When you're coming in from like 5e or even 2e, like, it feels like such a bigger thing. At this point, I'm pretty sure I have system mastery in 1E, which is I will screw things up because there's so many,
yeah, but still, yeah, absolutely. With regards to system mastery and stuff, I think looking at Grinluke, for instance, I think we can attest to the fact that you can come up with excellent builds.
The Oridon that healed through exploding Balors at level 13, it was so good, and I'm very, very proud of that build, and I like showing it to people because, like, you're not supposed to play, in this specific example, like, healers in first edition Pathfinder. Bad idea.
Right.
Can't out-heal damage. I beg to differ.
Right.
Here's how. And it becomes a really interesting challenge to, like, how would you make this? Is it possible to do this, but also that? The argument is generally yes, because there's so much of it. And then in, like, 2E, 2E has gotten more fun to build for.
Yes.
Obviously, the longer it goes.
The
At
more
first,
stuff.
Actually, that dawns on me to cycle something. I need to tweet about this because it's probably relevant. But, like, I know I had a lot of complaints for early 2E about the difficulty and about how the published content was a meat grinder. One wonders if working conditions were a little better, if the playtesting wouldn't have been a little longer, and we wouldn't have all died to a burning building in Age of Ashes, for example,
right?
Things of that nature.
Or in my case, with my Agents of Edgewatch group, been simultaneously eaten by a cockatrice and an owlbear at the same time at level 2. I think level 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extinction Curse does literally same. They just jam a cockatrice in the middle of a like circus camp, and no
you're
one
like,
knows
you haven't right. You haven't fixed this stat block. We still need spells that are higher level to deal with this. What the fuck, Paizo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But now we know why, potentially.
Well,
It's speculation, but it's speculation that, like, in hindsight, if that's the case, I feel bad for being as critical about it. Because, like, the people behind it
right.
Like,
yeah. As in, you feel bad for being critical about, like, as in criticizing them directly for it, because there might have been pressures on them that we didn't know about at the time, that could have caused it to be that the game wasn't as good, as it was more rushed than maybe they wanted it to be. Yeah, I see what you mean, and yeah, I think I might also talk to people about that. It's. And that getting us, and not to get us back to that very quickly, but that is that's one of the upsetting things about it, because like one of the reasons I was wondering about whether or not I was even going to carry on running Pathfinder was because I was kind of like, well, how much of the stuff that I know that is good has been affected by this, by employee-employer relations? How much is it? It's the same dilemma that I face when, like, you want to play like a good game that's been put out recently by, say, CD Projekt Red or a different sort of gaming company, and you know that they've had like massive crunch on it because they've talked about it, and you're kind of like, on the one hand, this seems like a good game, and I want to support the creatives, and I really want to sort of I want to play this game. But on the other hand, if I do, am I supporting the bad working practices that have gone into place to make this game in the first place? And again, I don't think it's as bad at Paizo, again, what we were saying, it not being as bad, but it still makes you think, right? It does, and not in a good way.
Yeah. But like, where I was going with that before I stepped in my own realization there was, like, the longer 2E has existed, the more cool things have come out. Like the both Magus and Summoner were recently reprinted. I guess printed is the best word. And the Magus plays a little bit differently than it did in the goal is the same. How many D6 can I put directly into that? But you have to go about it a different way, and the mechanics of 2E are more fluid, I guess, best way to say that. Like, you can make the mechanic work because the mechanic should do a thing. And it's like, that's neat. 2 actions, done. And then, like, go run with it. So building with that is, like, it still also becomes challenging while simultaneously being very, like, this is weird. I could never use a spellbook as my shield before. Why would I do that? It'll break my spellbook. No, it won't. Excellent. And
Great.
Run, go do that.
Yeah. I know. I agree. I think with regards to designing in 2E as opposed to 1E, in 1E there are a lot of fixed things that you're kind of like, there is probably an archetype for it somewhere that does it, but getting back to like whether or not you can build something, in 1E you probably can build it, but you wouldn't necessarily should build it, because it won't necessarily be good or like fun unless you're in a relatively sort of similarly tiered sort of group in terms of power level. Whereas in 2E, I do feel like they've gotten a lot better at making even the niche options just as competitive, because the math is a lot tighter, which means that even the sort of odd options that they've included, because people are like, wouldn't it be funny to use a spellbook as a shield or to beat someone to death with it? Although, actually thinking about it, in 1E there is a really good build for Inquisitor. That beats people to death with their Steel Grimoire. But in 2E, like, that option will be mostly on par with the other more normal options of, like, sort of throwing a fireball at someone. Which means that designing characters in 2E is fun in that regard. It's a lot easier, almost, in that regard, to build like a novelty concept that is still just as good. But at the same time, you're right. It is difficult in the sense that there are definitely still, because of the nature of like a class sort of mastery sort of system, there are still options that are almost deliberately bad. right?
Yeah, for sure. If you have two things, one thing will be worse than the other by nature of the fact they're different.
Right, precisely. The very nature of systems. Magnum, you used to subscribe to the Black Dragon Gaming channel. Thank you. You won't be disappointed.
You will not.
You're right. XL, according to Bowman, most of the stuff he deals with are more than 24 months ahead. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the interesting things. We don't know the time scale. I hope that one of the things this does, and I obviously as a company they have to keep some of it private because laws, quite above everything else. But I hope that one of the things this whole debacle sort of inspires is more transparency with regards to that. I feel like they have been a lot better with regards to release schedules and stuff on the Paizo server, right? Like even very recently they gave us like a yearly release schedule, and they're usually pretty good about sort of updating people about it. So they're reasonably transparent in that regard. Yeah, I mean, sales and stuff might have determined things for playtesting. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the 2E playtest period. It was more rushed, right? And then there was more private as well than the 1E playtest.
I wasn't around for the 1E playtest. I had TTRPG at the time. The 2E playtest was like the fall of 2018 forward, I believe it was. Yeah. And it was, I don't know how rushed it was. I don't necessarily speculate how well I don't even remember what the playtest stuff did. I guess one thing I do remember and still feel this way about it is when playtest content is released for 2E and it's bad, it's almost always like the Barbarian of the second edition playtest. Rage was literally like a mini game. Right. If anyone remembers,
right. Yeah.
How long am I in Rage? Rolls a flat check 1 round, and now it's that much easier to crit me.
Great.
Oh, whoops.
Wonderful. I feel bad playing this character. Yeah. And they changed a bunch about magic items and stuff as well, I remember, because not I think much for the better, but I could see that they were kind of getting into a quandary about how they were going to make the focus system work with the magic items, because originally the focus system was a lot more invested in magic items, and now they've kind of kept the investment, but you can invest up to 10 items, so it feels almost meaningless. And there's this weird distinction between different types of items, but again, in the playtest it meant more. But no, I think I hope, like you, I hope that the playtest wasn't. I hope that any of the content they make isn't impinged on or sort of affected by the things that have been coming out. But if they are true, and I hope that they're not, I hope that Paizo is able to, like we said before, I hope that this statement and the other things that they've been saying are able to sort of dispel the idea that they are either true or at least present alternative recollections that are plausible, you know? Mm-hmm. But if even some of them are true, then I can't help but feel that it probably did affect some of the stuff that they made, because of course it would. You know, people have left.
Going into work.
Right. Well, yeah, people who have left were involved. So, I mean, yeah. But yeah, so bringing it back to you and the channel, rather than dwelling on the things that hopefully will change in the future, but that we can't change right now. I know you're still thinking about it, but if everything gets resolved, right, and if you feel comfortable making Pathfinder videos again, when you feel comfortable making Pathfinder videos again, what's next?
Next is probably soon, honestly. I know most of my time was just wow, this is really heavy. My friends and I are processing this. I want to be available for the people I care about and also be at the front of what the heck is going on.
Sure.
Let's take a step back from YouTubing for a second. Mm-hmm. When I go back to it, a lot of it will be status quo. I try to make a character build once a week-ish, and then I have a bunch of books that I'm trying to over the course of this last summer I moved, and so we weren't making as many videos. I straight up didn't open my Paizo box that had Lost Omens Manga Expanse and all the other books from that cycle in it.
Sure.
Till I got here.
Sure. I mean, moving is hard.
It is. And so there's a whole bunch back there that I want to dig into and read and find the things basically that speak to me, which is hard because it's a lot of it, and then go put it out into a format where people can watch. I'm still a lot of the new ancestries in Lost Omens, the Manga Expanse are either really cool mechanically. Like there's a race of humanoids with like quills, and they
I
have
was
a
going to
reaction.
talk about this one. I can't pronounce their name. Shish?
The shish.
Yeah.
I made a lot of jokes in a video about how the reaction was called shish kebabbing somebody. That's kind of just like what you do. Like you hit me, oop, too many D8s in the face.
Right.
Grippleys do a similar thing. And everybody loves
because
money.
Grippleys are fantastic. I have people come into my Pathfinder streams asking where the Grippleys are, and I always seriously, I like only a few days ago, I had someone come in and was like, in my War for the Crown stream, was like, where are all the Grippleys at? And I was very sad to inform them that there weren't any Grippleys in that game, but I can see why people love them because they're adorable frogs that if you touch them too much, you're like, yeah, bitch, I'm poisonous.
and their mechanics are so goddamn good. They have buffs to like the two best stats in the game, a climb speed. I'm in a party right now with, I forget the alchemist archetypes because I can't pronounce them, but the healery one, and she will put healing. Yes. She'll put healing on the party because she took Agile Tongue. Nice. So that's how she's delivering her touch spells.
That's great. That is a really good idea.
Be fun for a spell striking magus too, come to think, because you can answer that, how do I 2-weapon fighting, but also like shocking grasp Yoshi you to death. That's how.
Right. Speaking of
and this is my content.
Right, exactly. But speaking of ancestries that are surprisingly good for things that you wouldn't expect them to be, gnolls. Gnolls are like I have a bit of a vested interest in this regard because I've had a couple of players in various Pathfinder groups previously in WoNI who have wanted to play or have played gnolls before, and I've obviously had to, because they're really bad in terms of WoNI, like their racial hit dice, like lizard folk, and I ended up having to rebuild them and sort of make them into a race using the race point guide and stuff. And I was like, man, I wish these guys were better. And then you have to look at their culture, which is bound up into Legacy of Fire. Which is talking of old Paizo that's bad. I know that we've talked about this before. Oh jeez, Legacy of Fire is literally a dumpster fire, which is funny considering it's called Legacy of Fire and set in the fireplace. and gnolls are a big part of that AP, and they're not great in there either. So it's been really nice to see a good gnoll ancestry, and they're good magi, which is.
Yeah, I'm literally playing a Gnoll Magus tomorrow.
Nice.
Like, I'm playing a Gnoll Magus tomorrow in a party with a Gnoll Rogue and a Gnoll Fighter. It's like we're 3 gnolls, a Leshy, and a human, and that's not a party, right? Like you don't expect to see that because gnolls they didn't even have like a bite attack in 1E, if I remember.
No,
correctly.
yeah, they're like I say, I had to rebuild them. They're trash.
They're horrible, but now they're not.
But now they're not. Yeah, and that's. And part of that is Paizo discarding the baggage of 3.5, frankly, because like a bunch of the races in 3.5, like older D&D content, are just
not great.
Well, they're not great. They're monstrous. They're monstrous creatures. They're racist. They're a whole bunch of, like, again, going back into the whole heavy topics, a whole bunch of bullshit about bias essentialism and people being bad because they were born bad. That rubbish.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's been really heartening. Again, a good example of like ancestries that are good now that don't fall into that trap are gnolls. I feel
exactly
right. And yeah, the stuff in the Morangi Expanse has been dope. Hell, I was just talking about Jatembe with Mike from Galarian in Depth previously, and how his arc and how they have just really done Garand well, particularly again comparing Garand to say Chult from Wizards of the Coast is like comparing, I don't know, a really tasty apple and a really stinky rotting pear.
Yeah, for sure. Like Jatembe's always been there, but he was never really fleshed out except for like when the bad thing happened.
Well, he was
old Mage Jatembe and his friends.
He was the magic black man previously. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, and now like he has a story and lore. There's a goddamn adventure path where you go to his school and you play magical kids, which eventually goes to Akiton, and I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, right. I won't lie, in terms of like the APs that I've looked at and been like, I want to, whether or not I want to run it, it's been the first 2E AP that I was like, we're talking about Strength of Thousands at this point, everybody. Well, one of the most recent ones. Is it the most recent one? I think
Yes, yeah, it's currently being printed.
Yeah. I was trying to work out whether it was that or Abomination Volts. Yeah, it's Strength of Thousands, and it was the first 2E AP that I was like, I want to run this. Whereas the previous ones I've been like, I'd be fine if I run them, but I haven't been like, I really, really want to run them. You know what I mean?
There's no excitement. It's just like, yeah, sure, you want to, let's play Age of Ashes. All right. Here are the things I will change to make that a little more fun. Or like I'm currently running, I have a 2E group.
These numbers.
Yes. I have a 2E group that I'm running right now that we're taking all the modules and like rolling them together. And we started in the Fall of Plaguestone, and we're currently in the Slithering, which has been great since Lost Omens Manga Expanse came out. Now it's like, here's all this extra content. Have fun. But Plaguestone was a different... I like Isger. It feels very... There's a line in... the second Avengers movie that's like, there's nothing here but everything goes through here, and so it feels like a really cool like place to like tell stories and stuff. But also Fall of Plaguestone was nowhere near as like bright, as though parts of the Slithering are difficult and turn numbers. It looks awkwardly at those specters that got nerfed. God, I'm running that on Foundry, and for anybody who plays 2E, the Spectres in Foundry haven't been changed to reflect the nerf. So I have, as I usually do, it's like, here's the VTT, here's Archives of Nethys, let's run the thing. And I look like, what was the Spectres attack again? Wait, these numbers are different.
Honestly, right, yeah. These numbers are so much fun. Roll20 is like that as well, with some of their published content. Admittedly, the 2E content is much better than the 1E content, which I feel like they gave up on, unfortunately, a little bit, because they started focusing on supporting 2E and not really focusing on supporting 1E. But there's definitely, I'm right there with you, like when I'm running it, I've got Archive of Nessus open like with the same stat block on the left hand side. Just like, is this the same? Yeah, okay, all right, this is fine. I can click all these buttons. Or no, they've just completely missed a vital special ability. Okay, well, great. Did I pay money for this again? I did. Yeah, okay.
But Strength of Thousands doesn't feel that way. It feels very like put together. I imagine, honestly, my God, I keep forgetting the name of it. The fighting tournament one that came out beforehand, Fist of the Ruby Phoenix, I believe. That one also feels good. I like that one specifically because it starts at higher level and ends at 20th.
Oh, does it? Like, I didn't know that.
Because all of the 2 APs are supposed to go to 20.
Right.
But the starting at high level means you actually get there, and probably get there with the same... You don't have that character meat grinder that is, even in a balanced adventure in low level play, if... I remember running Iron Fang Invasion. One of the early like mini bosses is a troglodyte barbarian with a ×3 weapon.
So,
and if you should he crit you, you are... I turned an Inquisitor into paste on the ground because that happens.
Iron Gods is like that as well.
I lost the PC in Iron Gods.
Right? Yep. Was it the Kasatha?
No, we did the Kasatha pretty... We talked him down, actually.
Oh,
I have
nice.
a really good game for it.
His actual fight is nasty. But yeah,
I can imagine a Juju zombie with that many attacks and a full attack routine can be very... Now, most of the stuff I've lost in Iron Gods has been like the GM has altered the encounters slightly because like we're optimizing, or like we got to something a little... Like we ran into... I don't remember who exactly, but it was a like... We're trying to get to the warehouse where the thing is, and we need a distraction. It's a friend of mine a long time ago came up with the idea of you could play 4 alchemists at the table, and they would all look wildly different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were a construct writer, me, a gun chemist, the chirurgeon, and the fourth person cheated, isn't playing an alchemist, but they're playing the brawler that gets a mutagen.
Oh, mutagenic morph.
So,
yeah.
Who also died.
Oh.
It was very like, I'll go try to do this. I have the HP to support this. Isoki have an okay con. You can definitely heal my Ankylosaur. This is fine. It wasn't fine.
Narrator, it was at this point that Tommy realized that he fucked up.
Pretty much. But now that we're like going into book 2 and stronger, we are taking a break. I guess I should say is another thing I do. A bunch of my friends and I, we have a podcast. It's called DDoS the Dragon with an exclamation point.
You should.
we're playing Iron Gods. It hit us all very hard. I don't think anybody in that podcast is straight. And we're all just like, oh God, this is why we're playing this. Let's not hold the fuck on. Oh no. So we're going to start, we're going to 5e for a little bit to jump on hype train. We're doing, I've talked to you about that yet. We ended up doing, I keep forgetting what it's called. We keep calling it Phalite. The one that's coming out tomorrow.
The Wild and the Witchlight. I think it's the Wild and the Witchlight. I'm getting the alternate. It's the first alternative art D&D 5e book that I'm getting, just because the company I was talking to you about potentially being sponsored by is doing it. So I was kind of like, oh yeah, you know what? Why not? Sign me up. It looks really good, actually. You know, and I'm glad that you didn't go Dragon Heist. Because I know I said it was the shortest one, but it's not the best one at all. So but the Fight World one looks pretty solid, and Rime of the Frost Maiden as well. Like, talking of companies doing things better, dare I say it, still with all the caveats and controversies and stuff that are involved in Hasbro, Wizards have tentatively been doing better in the last few modules. Like Rime, they had a really, by their standards, diverse cast of writers, which they made a big deal about. And the content in Rime is a lot more... well, it doesn't have the stuff that Tomb of Annihilation and Curse of Strahd and stuff had problems with. And it has considerably more diverse sort of characters and more interesting characters as well, honestly. That's something I think people underestimate, right? With regards to the representation stuff. People think that... the only reason we're doing it is for, you know, social justice or, you know, bullshit like that. But actually, when it reflects the world as it is better, it's more interesting. It's actually better content.
Yeah, right? Funny how that works.
Right. It's like you look at it and you're kind of like, I know this is capitalism, but you're not even doing capitalism well. Do it better. But yeah, no, Wild and the Witchlight actually looks really fun. So I hope you have a lot of fun with that, because that one's got a carnival as well, right? And you sort of like start on two different sides of the carnival and stuff.
Something like, I don't know. I haven't read a lot of it. I know we're all pretty excited because there's a thing that like every single encounter in that module can be solved without violence. Ooh. Which is very interesting, because like that's D&D. It is where you are coming to table because you are, here is dice, here is axe, now you're dead, and then we loop the loop forever and ever. Yeah. But when it's baked in by the writers to like, if you don't want to solve this violently, here's a thing you could do instead, says the guy who will be playing a fairy barbarian.
but you'll find ways, and that's what's interesting about role-playing games, is not only finding ways of playing to type in a fun and interesting way, but also finding ways to play against type, like class and sort of ancestry and things that sort of determine about your characters. I see, and I'm sure you do as well, are a challenge, right? They're a challenge almost to make something interesting out of them that people don't necessarily expect, but that is still good. And also, a fairy barbarian sounds hilarious. So,
yeah. I try to play against type all the time because, like, I've done this for so damn long. Sure. Those are more interesting to me. And it's also, like, the... pushing the, like, I guess I don't necessarily want to say trope subversion, but that's the closest word that comes to mind. Like, all orcs are big and dumb, you say. Right. Let me make a lawful good oracle real quick. let me roll really badly and still take the array and have a chawn egg and be an oracle. Funny sidebar. I joined another game with some friends, and somehow in the stat roll, I rolled 3999 and have to use those 4 numbers. Oh. So I'm playing a wizard because I have one good stat.
Yeah, right. Ow, you got a 3. You actually, what was that on 46? Keep the lowest as well. Keep the 3 high. Oh my
Roll God. 7 times. I had to keep a 3.
Oh, that's so painful.
It hurt. It hurt right here. But
you're gonna do it. And you know what? It'll probably, you know what? Even if it dies, it'll probably be a really fun character.
I leaned into it, and I'm not even with age penalties. I am an old man who is like who's not Obi-Wan Kenobi-ing the party, because that means I die very fast. But the old wise man who's going to help everybody and make the next generation.
The sensei sort of stereotype, right?
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, that's a lot of the reason, like. Things like that are why BDG is a thing and why I love TTRPG so much, is because no single experience looks the same. Another great example I have, because everybody wants to play or run it, I have been in Rise of the Runelords as a player or GM on 4 occasions. And when we get done, me and you, I will have seen all the content across playthroughs.
We're gonna get there. We're on book 6. We're nearly there.
All 4 of the playthroughs have been so radically different. Like in the course of the events, I've been an orc oracle, an orc hunter, because I wanted a war cat and I wanted on flavor reason to have the war cat, so I played an orc. Who that GM wasn't great. He liked to bring up that I was an orc for gross reasons in Magnamar a lot of the time, and I definitely felt like I couldn't get as far. And that's part of the reason we do it better now, because we saw the other side, and that sucked. And then what else? A human brawler and a kitsune bard over the course of 4 books, and each iteration has been wildly different. On the one hand, like, oh, let's be blatantly racist to the orc because he's an orc, haha. Or the, like, oh god, playing with, like, in your group specifically, groups that are much more optimization oriented.
Yes.
A lot of people have been,
absolutely.
Like, I haven't told my friends about the fight with I don't remember his name. The book 5 Vault of Greed boss. I imagine yours looked much different.
Yes,
I imagine his looks way different than everybody else's, and it was a good fight. It was a very scary fight.
But you ended it so wonderfully, and that was another good example of how not only sort of different APs can be different, but also how just taking these concepts that we're given in this kind of content and running with it can be so rewarding. I think I told you guys at the time, you guys at the time, in between sort of laughing so hard that I don't think I really was very coherent, that no one has ever killed, and I've run this AP a ridiculous amount of times. Like, this is, I think, my 5th or 6th time running it generally, and certainly my 2nd or 3rd time getting to Runeforge. And I've never had anybody kill Audicon the Mithril Mage by, essentially sucking them into space.
Yeah, that was dope.
It was really funny and really cool that was how you dealt with him. And that whole Rise of the Runelords group is, you're right, very optimized focused. Like, we have, it is the classic AP, and it is a bit of a meat grinder. And whereas you guys, I think you were talking about getting to the Stone Giants, didn't want too much combat. My group's approach to the Stone Giants was SEAL Team 6, essentially.
That's how I played the Brawler that run through all of book 4. That's essentially what we did. Was we had a shaman who bluffed their way into the bottom of
Jorgenfist.
Oh god, yes, and got to, like, right before the trap that shrinks everybody or whatever. And that's when his bluff ran out, and he teleported out, grabbed everybody, teleported in. We started the dungeon there.
Nice.
And this was also another group that was like, hey guys, Stone Giants and maybe a dragon are attacking Sandpoint. What the heck are we going to do about it? Let's go fight all of them at once out in the field.
Yep.
And it was tight. How we did it was, I'm still very proud of this kill, because it was the best kill.
Sure.
We were 6 people in the party. The only other operative member who's important was a wizard, as it always is.
Yep.
But
force multiplier, how we did it.
I'm playing a brawler. I can grapple pretty darn well. We all get Featherfall put on us.
Nice.
Me and the wizard teleport up. I fall onto the dragon and grapple him. The wizard just chooses to Featherfall down. Sure. And a pinned creature can't fly.
Right.
We're very high in the air. And that killed the dragon.
So you suplexed Longtooth into the ground.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is an accurate ruling for Featherfall, but the GM had called it, if I let go in a certain amount of time, made a reflex save, the Featherfall would catch me.
Nice.
The dragon couldn't right the dragon's self, and we just slammed down into the middle of the Stone Giants. Meanwhile, there's a barbarian, a shaman, and a Magus, I think it was. Yeah, sure. Just doing ground things, killing Stone Giants.
Back-to-back fighting all the other Stone Giants while you're too busy throwing the dragon out. That's fantastic. In this last run, actually, they didn't even fight. The group that you're with, they had a slightly different party composition, but they didn't even fight Longtooth. He's still alive, because they had a wizard again. It's funny how that comes up. They had an illusionist wizard at this point in the party, and they put up an illusion of an ancient gold dragon before the dragon got here, because they heard him coming, just protecting Sandpoint, and he failed his will save to disbelieve the illusion. So I was just like, yeah, he just
goes away now.
Yeah, he just doesn't attack because, you can see this ridiculously more powerful, ridiculously more old dragon protecting the town that he was about to burn down, thinking that it didn't have anything like that. So he just sort of 180s and leaves, which was a bit anticlimactic, but at the same time, it was very sort of empowering for the illusionist character, I think, because they were like, I just won the encounter with this spell. Yeah, you guys are welcome. You're all welcome.
And that's so important in the TTRPG space, like, because it's supposed to feel empowering. We are supposed to feel good. We're like, all of my people who I play with across any gap, basically, we're all in it for the power fantasy, more or less. I can save it. I can protect the people I love with a thing that I do well. Look at me go! Snap! There's the thing. I'm doing a homebrew game currently in 2E where it's, if you know what Doomsday Dawn was, we TPK'd in that.
Sure.
So it created like this alternate universe homebrew world for me where Galarian gets consumed by a planet and you are refugees. You go from planet to planet to planet figuring things out. We ended up on Akaton, which is definitely not John Carter of Mars.
No, definitely not, but it is though.
It is. And I have a Isoki investigator, sidebar, investigators in 2E are dope, but an Isoki investigator who had a bunch of things in his backstory with the cult of Razmir. And like, so that's when we chose to bring it in. That's where most of the Razmiri ended up. They are currently doing the same thing that they were doing before to these people to extort them for money. And so when we get to tear that down in like very good, very healthy ways, not just like, okay, it's and that's all the messages I'm getting back on my phone from people afterwards. Like, hey, this was really great. This helped me live through this. This is usually hard or difficult, but this felt really good. Thank you for that. And that's exactly why we do this. And this is exactly why we make content about this, is because it's, for some people, it's so just goddamn helpful.
Yeah.
And being at the front of that feels like it is that's why when I tell people before games start, thank you for the catchphrase has been, thank you for keeping me pandemic proof and having the coolest job on the planet.
Nice.
That's why it's the coolest job on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And tying that neatly back to the beginning of what we were talking about, and at the end of the conversation that we're having, although I really do hope you will come on the stream again, aside from Rise of the Runelords, obviously, which will hopefully be running in the future, but I do hope you can come on the stream again. You'd be more than welcome to.
Yeah, sounds fun to me.
Awesome. We'll see. We maybe next time we can do some video gaming. But to tie it neatly back, I tell people similar things. I know you know this. What I say, that I'm thankful that people have come back to play the game with me, and that we can play this game together and share the game together. But I tell people also that I don't think role-playing games are therapy. They're not a substitute for it at all. We're quite apart from anything else. We're not paid enough, nor are we qualified. But it absolutely can be therapeutic. Right? And they should feel good. And they have in the past. I know we've just been sharing stories about where they have done. And what I really hope, again, comes out of all of this is that Paizo can put their house in order and can put themselves in a position, and I think they're taking steps towards it. Hope they continue to do so. Can put their house in order to a point where we can both say that is what we are running Pathfinder for again. That we're running it because it feels good, because it's giving people the power fantasy, the escapism, and the feeling of empowerment and control that sometimes, unfortunately, capitalism, sometimes, unfortunately, and partially because of their identities as well, they don't get in their real life, maybe, but that can help them get in their real life a little bit through playing our games. But
indeed,
you know what will help you with that? Like I said previously, watching this wonderful person's YouTube channel, and as and when their podcast starts up with their Witchlight module, listening to DDoS the Dragon. Did you say it was?
Yeah, DDoS the Dragon.
and Black Dragon Gaming, the YouTube channel. Go have a look at them, particularly if because I'm not making content at the moment because I'm on holiday, and you've taken a break from making content as well. Particularly if you need something to watch in the meantime, have a look at both of our YouTube channels. And yeah, hopefully the next time we talk, things will have moved on so that we can be a lot more positive and maybe discuss some of the really cool things coming up in Pathfinder.
Yeah, oh yeah, that sounds great.
Oh, awesome. Well, for now, though, like I said, thank you for coming on the stream. Appreciate you.
Of course.
And everybody in chat, thank you for watching and listening. Thank you for your questions. I've been reading chat as we've been going through, and it's really helped me with regards to what we've been talking about, like giving me prompts for what we were talking about. So thank you. Hope you've enjoyed this. I will be back tomorrow afternoon talking to Will the Nerd about video gaming, so probably some of the sort of stuff we've been talking about with regards to crunch and stuff and play testing and so forth is going to come up in that, but for now, guys, I'm going to sign off, and I hope you all have a good day, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you are. Stay safe. Bye.